I think this adaptability and the constant change and being able to cope with it. I remember you during a certain talk, and this was pre COVID and very uncannily, and you were talking about how children would be having, jobs not at a 9 to 5, but at various spaces. And to have that opportunity to know that there is another part of me, like Siddhant was saying, he's an environmentalist, as well as something else that he would get a college education on. And there could be two very important aspects of their lives. So I think that holistic personality will come into being. You will not be dependent on one particular aspect of your cognitive skills or your qualifications to be leading a wholesome life. I think that's going to change very rapidly. I think relationships are going to be more meaningful. A lot of mental health concern around loneliness, around anxiety, and really discovering that it is social connect that brings them together. So while children today are connected online, there is a huge difference and meeting their peers. So I think that is going to change again. And when there'll be real time connects, those will be savored much more. So I think workplaces, the way we live our lives will be like that. And I think pathways is really, really, I mean, when I look at it from this perspective, they are already living a lot of these, the adaptability, when they came into middle school, it was like, why can't, why do they have to lug their stuff from one classroom to another? Something as small as that is actually teaching you don't get comfortable with just one physical space. So they've already worked. And reflecting back on the other question of how has the family seen children getting impacted, other things being adolescence and pre-adolescence and parent-child equation, the fact that COVID per se is pulling them down is not a situation for me. So that is very, very, you can see it happening. So you don't have to theorize about it or, make it up, but you can actually expect these children to, function very well in that. I do agree with Anju that the kids here are learning things right from primary school, and they're living those values. So it doesn't come as a tool that they have to incorporate. They've always been playing around with those aspects like mindfulness, so it comes easier. And one thing that yeah, yeah, she was mentioning that that. Uh, there's a lot of people are talking about it. The younger generation is very inclusive, non-judgmental, and they are able to accept people around. And one thing I'd like to share is that what Siddhant said, that there are issues. So just when you see your child functional in a certain area, say academics or sports, there could be another aspect totally under turmoil. So I think conversations about vulnerability have to be there. And once there's that acceptance, there are a huge number of youngsters who share that platform amongst peers, but never with their parents. So this generation has that resilience because they have those coping skills, they are inclusive, they are accepting, they are able to acknowledge, but they would have discovered during COVID the relationships make a lot of difference. So I think that is one takeaway, that's going to be one pillar which will benefit them. Also, the other thing of being very empathetic. I'll just share an example of my 10-year-old. So he would love an outing. Like someone said, Dr. Roya saying that, kids just want to be out. Luckily for us, we live in a society where we are going out to play or cycle and things like that within our garden or just outside our society. It's very green. So a lot to be grateful for. But he would love to go to the neighborhood shop because he would actually be out on the road. So he'd buy stuff for himself, and as he would pass by, he'd give things out to the guards. He was always in that giving form. So I think a lot of it comes from the school values. So things which have been lying latent suddenly find a vision and an action orientation in times like these. So I think they are very, very sensitive, thinking children, and it's amazing to hear them talk and reflect on this scenario.